The morning after the intrusion, Ravi felt a strange calm. Meena was already up, eating breakfast with a bright smile. It was as if the previous night had not happened, but Ravi knew better. The world outside could be unpredictable. That was why he remained alert, his mind always planning several steps ahead. Reena arrived shortly after sunrise. This time she came with her team, moving quietly through the streets to ensure the area was safe. When she approached the house, Ravi stepped out to meet her. "You handled yourself well," she said sincerely. "I have never seen someone protect their home with such calm control." Ravi nodded. It was necessary. But now the question is how to prevent another attempt. "My daughter's safety comes first." Reena's eyes softened as she glanced at Meena, who waved shyly. That is the right approach. Courage is important, but preparation is everything. Ravi thought for a moment. He had always relied on his experience and instincts. But Meena was young, and he wanted her to learn not just how to fight, but how to be aware, confident, and smart. "I want to train her," he said finally. "Not just martial arts, but how to stay alert, how to handle unexpected situations, how to remain calm." Reena's lips curved into a small smile. "Then we will help. But remember, training is not only about strength. It is about understanding and respect." The day passed with quiet practice. Meena followed her father's instructions carefully. Ravi showed her how to move safely, how to balance, and how to react without panic. Each time he explained why she acted in a certain way. "See, Meena," he said, "if someone tries to surprise you, the first step is to stay calm. If you panic, you lose control. Calmness is your strongest tool." Meena nodded, repeating the movement slowly. Her small steps were careful, her hands guided by her father. She fell a few times, but Ravi helped her up, smiling. Mistakes are part of learning. Do not fear them. Meanwhile, Reena observed from the side. She noticed Ravi's patience and precision. She had trained many soldiers, but few taught with such care and clarity. It was clear why his daughter was so confident around him. She was learning not just martial skill, but a mindset that would serve her for life. As the sun began to set, the training shifted outdoors. Ravi demonstrated defensive movements and situational awareness. Meena followed, moving carefully, looking at her surroundings. "You must always notice what is around you," Ravi explained. "If you see something unusual, stay alert and never act recklessly. Safety comes first, always." Reena stepped closer, watching the interaction. She realized something important. Ravi's strength was not only in his body, but in his mind. That combination made him formidable, not just to enemies, but as a teacher and protector. Suddenly, a small challenge arose. A stray dog entered the yard, barking and running toward them. Meena froze, unsure what to do. Ravi calmly stepped in front of her. "Do not panic," he said. "Move slowly, keep your eyes on me, and follow my lead." He guided Meena behind him, showing that fear could be managed without aggression. The dog soon lost interest and ran away. Meena looked at him with admiration. "Papa, you saved me." Ravi smiled. "No, we both handled it. Calmness and awareness saved us." Reena's mind reflected on what she had just seen. She understood now why she had been so struck by Ravi at the gym. His control, his calm, his courage. These were qualities that could not be taught in a normal classroom. They were forged through life, through experience, and through love for those he protected. As evening fell, Meena sat beside her father, exhausted but happy. Ravi looked at the sky, then at her, and felt a deep sense of peace. He knew challenges would come again. He knew danger would not wait forever. But he also knew that he had prepared his daughter to face the world with courage and wisdom. Reena, standing quietly at the gate, smiled to herself. She had come expecting to test a veteran, but instead she had witnessed a father teaching a life lesson far greater than any combat skill. And in that moment, Ravi understood something as well. Strength was not just about defending against enemies. It was about teaching, guiding, and nurturing those you loved. The sun rose slowly over the quiet neighborhood. Birds chirped softly, and the air carried the fresh scent of morning. Ravi sat on the porch, a cup of tea in his hand, while Meena played nearby with her small toy blocks. For a moment it seemed like the world had returned to peace. Reena approached quietly, her presence calm but purposeful. She had been keeping watch from a distance, ensuring that the threats from the previous nights had disappeared. Now she felt it was safe enough to approach the family. "Good morning, Ravi," she said gently. Ravi nodded. "Good morning, Commander. Did you sleep well last night?" "I did," she replied, smiling slightly. And I think you did too, although I imagine your mind never rests completely. Ravi smiled, looking at Meena. I only rest when she is safe. Reena's eyes softened as she observed the bond between father and daughter. There was a quiet strength in Ravi, not only in his skill but in his heart. She had spent her life training soldiers, but few had the patience, calmness, and courage that Ravi displayed naturally. Meena ran over, holding a small flower she had picked from the yard. Papa, look. I want to give this to you. Ravi took it carefully, smiling at her gesture. Thank you, Meena. It is beautiful. Reena's gaze shifted back to Ravi. You have done something remarkable, she said softly. You have not only protected your home but also taught your daughter lessons that will last her entire life. Ravi shook his head slightly. I only do what any parent should. She needs to grow strong and confident but not afraid. She needs to know that courage comes with calmness and care. Reena nodded, impressed. Few people understand that. Most focus only on strength or skill. But true protection comes from control and awareness. Ravi looked at her quietly. I trained for years, but the lessons I teach her now are more important than anything I learned in battle. Life itself is the greatest teacher. The morning continued in peaceful routine. Ravi guided Meena as she tidied her toys, showed her small exercises to stretch and move, and encouraged her to speak about her feelings. The previous day's threats had left an impression, but Meena was learning to face life with both confidence and caution. At one point, Reena stepped closer. Ravi, you will always have people who notice your skills. Some may want to test you, some may want to recruit you, and others may bring danger. But you have shown me something very rare. You can remain strong without losing your calm, and you can guide others with patience. That is why I respect you deeply. Ravi nodded. I hope that one day my daughter will understand that strength is not about fighting or proving oneself. It is about knowing when to act and when to stay calm. Meena overheard and smiled. Papa, I understand. I will try to be brave like you. Ravi hugged her gently. Bravery is good, little one, but always combine it with thought and care. That makes true courage. Reena watched the small family, realizing that she had witnessed something extraordinary. Ravi was not a hero because of fame or medals. He was a hero because he had mastered himself, his past, and his present, and he used that mastery to protect the person he loved most. As the day went on, the neighborhood remained quiet. The intruders from the past nights did not return, discouraged perhaps by Ravi's readiness and skill. The black belts at the gym would remember his calm strength and control, and the stories of his courage would quietly spread. But for Ravi, the true victory was simple. Meena was safe. She was learning lessons that no medal or award could teach. She was learning about life, courage, and care, all from the father she loved. Reena left the house that afternoon, confident that the immediate danger had passed. She had come expecting to see a veteran, but she had left witnessing a father, a protector, and a teacher. Ravi sat on the porch as the sun dipped lower in the sky. Meena ran to him with a small sketch she had drawn, a picture of them together smiling. He looked at it and smiled. For him, that was more valuable than any recognition or mission. The quiet evening settled around them. Ravi knew that life could bring new challenges, but he also knew that courage, patience, and love would always guide him. And as he watched Meena laugh under the fading light, he felt a calm he had not known for many years, a calm that came from knowing that he had faced his past and protected his future. In the end, the veteran had found peace not through battle, but through the strength of his heart. Meera had always lived in the city where the streets were busy and the lights never went out. She worked for many years in an office full of noise, phones ringing, and people rushing in and out. After her retirement, she wanted silence, a place where her heart could finally rest. That was when she found the small wooden cabin near the lake, hidden at the edge of a forest of tall pine trees. The cabin was old but strong. Its walls smelled of cedar and the porch looked out toward the shining water. The air was clear and fresh, carrying the scent of pine needles and earth. Meera loved it at first sight. She signed the papers and bought it without a second thought. On her first morning there, she stood on the porch with a warm cup of tea. Birds sang high in the trees and the lake reflected the rising sun. She smiled to herself and whispered, "This is peace." She had no need for grand houses or busy neighborhoods. She only wanted calm days where she could read her books, take long walks, and feel the earth beneath her feet. The people in the nearby town were polite. When she went to the small grocery store or the bakery, they nodded and smiled. Some asked if she was new to the area. She answered kindly but never said too much about herself. She liked to keep her life simple and private, but not everyone was happy about her arrival. A woman named Karen lived a few houses down the road. Karen was known for her sharp eyes and her endless clipboard. She was part of the local homeowners association, a group that believed every house should look the same. They wanted the same type of fence, the same color of paint, the same kind of mailbox. For them, rules were more important than comfort. From the very first day, Karen had noticed Mira's cabin. Unlike the other houses, it had no fence. The mailbox was plain and wooden, not the shiny metal type that the association preferred. The cabin was painted a warm brown, blending with the forest instead of the approved white or gray. To Karen, this was wrong. To Mira, it was beautiful. One afternoon, as Mira watered the small garden she had started by the porch, Karen appeared on the path. She held her clipboard tight and walked with quick steps as if she was on duty. "Good afternoon," Mira greeted with a gentle smile. Karen looked around the cabin before speaking. "This place does not follow the neighborhood rules. You need to paint it in the approved color, change your mailbox, and put up a proper fence." Mira's smile faded, but her voice stayed calm. "This cabin is outside your boundary. I checked the land records myself. It does not belong to the association's control." Karen's eyes narrowed. She did not like that answer. "Every home here must follow the same style. That is how we keep the neighborhood safe and proper." Mira shook her head. "I prefer my home natural. I want it to blend with the forest. This place is mine and I will keep it this way." Karen pressed her lips together and wrote something on her clipboard. Without saying another word, she turned and walked away. Mira watched her go. She did not like arguments, but she was not afraid either. She had worked with many difficult people in her past life in the city. She had faced voices louder and stronger than Karen's. This was only a woman with a clipboard. Still, Mira knew peace was not always simple. Some people could not allow others to live differently. Some people wanted control over everything they saw. She looked at the trees around her and felt their quiet strength. The forest had stood for hundreds of years without rules written on clipboards. She decided she would be like the trees, patient and steady. As the sun went down that evening, Mira sat on her porch again. She opened one of her old books and let the quiet of the woods sink into her heart. In the distance, she could see the lights of other houses turning on, all painted in the same dull colors. Her cabin stood apart, warm brown against the green forest. She liked it that way. She did not yet know how far Karen would go to enforce her rules. She did not yet know that trouble was already forming like clouds behind the tall trees. For now, she only knew that she had found her safe place and she intended to keep it. The morning sun touched the trees around the cabin with golden light. Mira was sitting at her porch table with her notebook, writing down small thoughts about the day. She loved to keep notes about the weather, the birds she saw, and the quiet changes of the forest. For her, it was a kind of diary of peace. As she wrote, she noticed someone walking quickly up the dirt path. It was Karen, holding her familiar clipboard, her chin lifted high, her steps sharp. Mira put down her pen and closed her notebook. She already guessed this visit would not be friendly. Karen reached the porch and did not smile. She glanced at the cabin walls, the garden patch, and the plain wooden mailbox. Then she spoke as if she were giving orders. "This cabin is not following neighborhood rules. I checked this morning and I saw no fence. The paint is not approved. And your mailbox is not on the list of accepted designs." Mira remained calm. "Good morning, Karen. As I said before, this land is outside your association's control. I'm free to keep it as it is." Karen ignored her words and began writing on her clipboard. "All cabins here must be in order. Without a fence, it does not look proper. Without the right mailbox, it lowers the value of other homes. You must repaint the walls and fix these issues." Mira folded her hands on the table. "I do not believe my cabin lowers anything. It is clean, safe, and well cared for. I chose it for its natural look. I am not interested in painting it white or gray. I like it as it is." Karen stopped writing and looked straight into Mira's eyes. "You think you are special, but everyone must follow rules. That is how we keep order," Mira answered with a steady voice. "There is a difference between order and control. I want peace, not control. My home is safe and it hurts no one. Why is it so important for you that it looks like the others?" For a moment, Karen seemed caught off guard. Then she quickly regained her sharp tone. "If you do not follow the rules, there will be complaints. I will bring it to the board. Mira leaned back slightly in her chair. She had dealt with people like this before. In her long career in the city, she had faced lawyers, officials, and angry voices that tried to bend her. She had always answered with fairness and calm. Now she used the same calmness here. You may do what you think you must, Mira said softly, but I know my rights and I will not change my home because of a clipboard. Karen's lips tightened. She tapped her pen against the board and then turned quickly. Without saying goodbye, she walked down the path again, her footsteps fast and sharp against the dirt. Mira watched her leave. She felt no fear, only a quiet weight in her chest. She had hoped for peace in the forest, but peace sometimes drew out those who disliked freedom. She looked around her garden, the little green shoots rising from the soil, and reminded herself that patience always outlasts noise. Later that day, Mira visited the small town to buy bread and milk. At the bakery, she noticed a neighbor, an older man with kind eyes, looking at her cabin keys as she placed them on the counter. He asked politely, "You live by the lake now, don't you?" Mira nodded. "Yes, I stay in the cabin," the man smiled. "It is a fine place, quiet and strong. My wife and I always liked that spot. But be careful with Karen. She has troubled many people before. She believes she can control even those who do not belong to the association." Mira thanked him for the warning. She realized Karen's behavior was not only toward her. Others had faced it too. That gave her some comfort. She was not alone in this. That evening, as Mira returned with her groceries, she saw a piece of paper under her cabin door. She bent down and picked it up. It was a printed notice, unsigned, saying her property was out of compliance and that further action would follow. She folded the paper slowly and placed it on the table. Then she lit a small lamp and opened her book. She refused to let fear steal her quiet. She had faced stronger storms than this. But as the wind moved softly through the pine trees, Mira knew in her heart this was only the beginning. Karen would not stop with paper or words. She was planning something more. The forest was quiet that afternoon. The lake shimmered with light and the wind carried the smell of pine. Mira was not at the cabin. She had driven into town to buy flour and a few supplies for the week. The cabin stood alone, silent like a watchful friend. Down the dirt road, Karen appeared once again. She held no smile, only her ever-present clipboard. Her eyes moved from the mailbox to the porch, then to the locked front door. She walked up the steps with sharp movements as if she owned the place. She tried the handle. The door did not move. It was locked. Karen frowned and tugged harder. Still locked. She glanced around to see if anyone was watching. Then she reached into her bag and pulled out a small key ring. The keys jingled in her hand. She bent forward, pressing one key into the lock. It did not fit. She tried another, then another, her movements quick and impatient. The cabin door refused every key. The wood was solid, the lock firm. A voice broke the silence. "What are you doing there, Karen?" It was Sam, a neighbor walking his old dog along the road. He stopped, his hand resting on the leash. The dog sniffed at the grass while Sam's eyes stayed fixed on Karen's hands at the door. Karen straightened quickly and hid the keys in her pocket. "I was only checking the cabin," she said in a fast tone. "It may not be secure. I wanted to make sure everything is safe." Sam raised an eyebrow. "Safe by trying to open the door?" Karen lifted her chin. "As part of the association, it is my duty to keep an eye on the houses in this area. If someone is not following the rules, it affects everyone. This cabin is not proper. I was making sure there was no danger inside." Sam looked at her for a long moment. He was not convinced, but he was a quiet man. "Well, it looks locked and safe to me," he said. "And it is not your door to open." Karen's face turned red. She tapped her clipboard as if to cover her unease. "Some people do not understand the importance of order," she muttered. Then she turned sharply and walked down the steps, her shoes crunching against the gravel. Sam shook his head and pulled his dog along. He thought about telling Mira what he had seen, but he decided she would learn soon enough. Not long after, Mira returned. She parked her car near the cabin and carried the bags of flour, milk, and vegetables inside. She noticed the doormat was moved slightly out of place. She frowned, but she said nothing. She placed her groceries on the wooden table and sat for a moment in silence. Her instincts whispered that someone had been there. Years of dealing with careful details in her former life had sharpened her awareness. She walked to the door, looked at the handle, and saw faint marks near the lock. Someone had tried it. She touched the wood gently with her fingertips, then closed her eyes. She already knew who it was. Later that evening, Mira sat on the porch with a small oil lamp beside her. The forest grew darker as night spread across the lake. She thought of Karen's sharp face and the endless clipboard. She thought of the quiet neighbors who might not dare to speak against her. She wondered how far Karen was willing to go. Inside the cabin, the lock stood strong. But Mira also understood that locks alone did not stop trouble. Determined voices, fueled by control, often pushed past boundaries. She remembered many cases she had judged in the city. Rules were good when they protected fairness, but rules used for power became weapons. She had seen it many times before. The moon rose above the trees, silver light touching the roof of the cabin. Mira sat still, her eyes on the shadows moving between the pines. She whispered softly to herself, not in fear but in calm strength. "This place is mine. No one will take it." Somewhere in the distance, Karen was likely writing another note, planning her next move. The game had already begun. Mira understood now that peace was not given easily. Sometimes it had to be guarded, not with anger, but with steady patience and truth. The forest seemed to listen. The wind shifted through the branches as if to say it agreed. And Mira, though alone on her porch, felt she was not standing alone at all. The morning was quiet. The sun rose slowly above the pine trees, painting the sky in soft colors of orange and pink. Mira was inside her cabin preparing breakfast. She fried eggs on a small pan and brewed tea in her kettle. The sound of the boiling water was the only noise inside the wooden home. She was enjoying the calm when she heard footsteps outside. When she opened the door, she was not surprised to see Karen again. The woman stood near the porch with her clipboard in one hand and her phone in the other. Her face was tight, her eyes full of judgment. Mira asked gently, "Do you need something, Karen?" Karen pointed toward the cabin walls and mailbox. "You are ignoring the rules. You think you can live here without following the association. I gave you warnings. You did not listen," Mira sighed. "This cabin is mine. It is outside your area. I know my rights." Karen shook her head and raised her phone. "Then the police will settle this. You leave me no choice." Before Mira could reply, Karen stepped a few feet away and called. Her voice was sharp as she spoke. "Yes, officer. I need help here. There is someone living in a cabin without permission. She refuses to follow the neighborhood rules. You should come and check." Mira watched quietly. She did not try to stop her. She knew truth always revealed itself, even if some people delayed it. Not long after, the sound of tires came up the dirt road. A patrol car stopped near the cabin. A tall officer stepped out. He had a calm face, but his eyes were careful and alert. He closed the car door and walked toward them. Karen rushed forward, waving her clipboard. "Officer, thank you for coming. This woman is not allowed to stay here. She broke all the rules. Look at this cabin. It has no fence, wrong paint, wrong mailbox. It is out of order. I told her many times, but she refuses. She is a danger to our neighborhood." The officer looked at Karen, then at Mira, who stood quietly near her porch. His voice was steady. "Good morning. Are you the owner of this cabin?" he asked Mira. Mira answered calmly. "Yes, I bought this cabin legally. All documents are clear. It is my home." Karen quickly cut in. "She is lying. I tried to check myself. She does not even lock her door properly. This place is unsafe and illegal. She is trespassing on community property." The officer raised his hand for silence. "Please let me ask the questions. Madam, do you have proof that this cabin is not hers?" Karen blinked, then stammered. I just know. I have been here for years. I know every rule. I know every house. This one is wrong." The officer turned back to Mira. His eyes studied her face with more attention now. Something about her seemed familiar to him. But he kept his tone even. "Do you have your documents with you, ma'am?" Mira nodded. "Yes, they are inside. I can show you." She went into the cabin, picked up a folder from the wooden shelf, and handed it to him. Inside were the sale papers, the land deed, and the record from the county office. The officer opened the folder and read carefully. The documents were complete, stamped, and official. He nodded. "Everything here looks correct." Karen's face turned red. "But officer, look at it. It does not match the other houses. How can you allow this? It will lower the value of the neighborhood. It breaks the style we all follow. You must do something." The officer closed the folder and returned it to Mira. "The law does not demand that all houses look the same. If this property is outside your association's boundary, then you have no authority here." Karen's mouth opened and closed. But no words came. She had expected the police to stand on her side. She had expected them to punish Mira. Instead, the officer's calm words left her powerless. Mira stood tall but quiet. She did not need to raise her voice. The truth spoke for her. The officer turned back toward his car but stopped for a moment. His eyes rested on Mira's face again. Something about her features stirred an old memory in him, but he said nothing yet. He only gave her a respectful nod before walking back to his patrol car. Karen stood frozen with her clipboard pressed against her chest. For the first time, she had no command, no authority, and no control. Mira watched them leave, then turned back into her cabin. She placed the folder neatly on the shelf and poured herself another cup of tea. The cabin remained silent, calm, and strong. Yet she knew this was not the end. Karen would not give up so easily. Trouble would return, but Mira was ready. The next day was warm and bright. The forest seemed alive with birds calling to one another, and the lake sparkling under the morning sun. Mira had gone into town early to pick up some fruit and flour. She enjoyed these small trips. The town was quiet, and the people were polite. They often asked her how she liked the cabin. She always answered with a small smile that she loved the peace. While she was gone, Karen made her way down the dirt road again. Her anger had only grown since the officer left. She could not stop thinking about how Mira stood so calm while she herself had been dismissed. To Karen, it felt like defeat, and defeat was something she never accepted. She stopped in front of the cabin and glared at the walls. She muttered to herself, "This place does not belong. It ruins the order. If the officer cannot see it, then I will make them see it again." Karen pulled out her phone once more. She called the station, her voice sharp and demanding. "You must come again. The woman is here now and she is refusing all rules. She is not following the law. You need to check her properly." The same patrol car returned not long after. The tall officer stepped out again, his face calm but his eyes watchful. He looked at Karen, then at the silent cabin. "Where is the owner?" he asked. Karen crossed her arms. "She will be here soon. I saw her leave earlier. But you must be ready. She is not what she says. I am telling you the truth." The officer said nothing, only waited. He leaned against the car, arms folded, scanning the road. After a short time, Mira's small car came up the road. The tires kicked up light dust as she approached. She parked neatly by the cabin and stepped out with her bag of groceries. She looked first at the officer, then at Karen, who was pointing at her as if she had caught a thief. "There she is," Karen cried. "That is the woman. She is breaking every rule. She is lying about her rights. Remove her, officer. Do your duty." Mira set the bag of fruit gently on the porch rail before turning toward them. Her face was calm, her voice steady. "This is my cabin. I bought it legally. Why are you both here again?" The officer studied her carefully. He did not answer at once. Something about the way she stood, the quiet strength in her eyes, stirred a memory he had been carrying. He had seen that same face years ago, though not here among the pine trees. Karen grew louder. "You see, she admits it. She thinks she can do whatever she wants. This neighborhood has order, and she refuses to follow it. You must take her out." Mira folded her hands. "I refuse nothing. I only live peacefully. I harm no one. This cabin is not part of the association. You cannot demand I follow rules that do not apply." The officer tilted his head slightly as he looked at her. His eyes narrowed, not in suspicion, but in recognition. He remembered news reports from the city years ago. A respected judge who had handled many difficult cases with wisdom and fairness. He remembered seeing her face on the television screen when he was a young officer starting his work. Could it be her? He asked softly, almost to himself, "Madam?" Then he stopped, unsure if his memory was correct. Karen tapped her clipboard loudly. "Why are you hesitating, officer? Do something. This is your chance to fix this problem." She should not be here. The officer did not move. His gaze stayed on Mira. The quiet way she held herself, the calm way she faced anger without raising her own voice. It matched perfectly with the memory he carried. He had never forgotten the respect she commanded even in the busiest courtroom. Mira picked up her grocery bag and walked toward her porch. She did not rush, she did not raise her voice, she only said, "I am tired of your games, Karen. You cannot shake me with threats or notes. This home is mine. Please stop this nonsense." The officer felt the truth in her words. He realized the woman in front of him was not just any homeowner. He knew exactly who she was now. But before he spoke her name, he kept his silence for a moment longer, as if gathering his thoughts. The wind moved gently through the trees. The lake shone in the distance. Karen tapped her clipboard again in impatience, but the officer's eyes never left Mira. The recognition was clear. He finally knew. The woman before him was someone far more than what Karen imagined. The officer's eyes stayed on Mira. Something about her posture, her calm voice, and the steady confidence in her face felt familiar. He had seen that presence before, a presence that demanded respect without a single raised hand. He glanced at Karen, who was waving her clipboard aggressively, clearly expecting him to act against Mira. He turned back to Mira, quietly thinking. Her calmness reminded him of a woman he had seen in court years ago. She had been a judge, known for fairness and wisdom. Her decisions had changed many lives. He remembered her face, the way she looked at people when she expected honesty, the firmness in her voice when she spoke the truth. Could it be the same person standing here in the forest? Karen stomped her foot. Officer, why are you just staring? This woman is breaking all the rules. You have to do something. The officer lifted his hand slightly, signaling her to stop. His voice was low, almost a whisper, as if he was speaking to himself rather than to anyone else. Madam Judge? Karen froze. Her eyes widened. She repeated the words in disbelief. Judge, that can't be true. Mira looked at the officer calmly. She did not smile or frown. She only nodded gently. Yes, I served as a judge for many years. I retired and moved here for peace. The officer straightened, now fully respectful. He realized that the woman in front of him was not just any homeowner. She had authority, experience, and a reputation built on fairness and intelligence. Suddenly, all the nervous energy of the day made sense. This was why she had faced Karen's attacks without fear. She had been trained to deal with people who tried to manipulate or intimidate her. Karen's hands trembled slightly as she gripped her clipboard. I didn't know. I just assumed. Her voice trailed off. She had imagined that the police would support her, that she could enforce her rules without question. But now the reality of the situation hit her. She had underestimated Mira completely. The officer turned fully to Karen. His tone was firm but calm. You attempted to enter private property without permission. That is not allowed. You do not have the authority to act here. This woman is the rightful owner of this cabin. Karen's face went pale. She looked around, suddenly aware of the neighbors who were quietly watching from a distance. Some nodded subtly at Mira. Others whispered among themselves. The truth had already begun to show. Mira's voice broke the silence. I do not seek conflict. I only want peace in my home. But I will not allow anyone to disturb it with false claims or threats. The officer nodded again, his respect evident. If anyone returns to harass you, call the station. We will ensure your rights are protected. You have nothing to fear here. Karen finally dropped her clipboard. She could not argue, could not speak. Her attempts to control Mira had failed completely. The woman she had tried to intimidate was not only confident, she was someone who had spent years making careful decisions and facing challenges much greater than an angry neighbor. Mira turned back to her cabin and stepped inside. The soft wooden floor creaked under her weight, a comforting sound. She placed her bag on the counter and took a deep breath. The tension from the morning melted slightly. The cabin felt safe again. The officer remained at the porch for a moment, looking at the quiet lake and the tall trees. He remembered the strength Mira had shown in court, the way she had inspired respect in everyone around her. Now he understood why Karen had failed so completely. The forest, the lake, and the cabin were all hers now, and no clipboard or complaint could change that. Finally, the officer turned to leave, giving Mira a final respectful nod. Karen, still frozen, walked slowly back down the dirt road. Mira could hear the faint sound of her heels on the gravel, growing distant with every step. Inside the cabin, Mira sat on the porch with her tea, the sunlight filtering through the pine trees. She looked at the calm lake and thought about how the day had unfolded. She had faced challenges before, and this was only a small test. The forest was her home now, and with quiet strength she would protect it. For the first time in many days, Mira felt completely at peace. Karen's interference had been stopped, the truth had been revealed, and her cabin was safe. The forest whispered around her, a gentle reminder that calm and patience always outlasted anger and control.